The problems with New York's state legislature are so entrenched, so embedded in the structure and tradition in Albany that most New Yorkers believe nothing can ever change. How could it when, thanks to gerrymandering, legislators might as well be elected for life, and their performance is matched only by their powerlessness? All the important decisions are made by three political bosses, the governor and the leader of each legislative house. The budget is written in secret code. The lobbyists have free rein, even with the government officials. The list goes on, with many of the worst abuses catalogued recently by Richard Perez Pena and James McKinley Jr., the New York Times. But a few key reforms could make all the difference and give New York's 19 million residents the government they deserve. If the Berlin Wall can come down, there is hope for Albany. The first crack in New York's petrified legislature requires a fundamental change in the way legislators map their own election districts. If there is one single thing that could relieve the gridlock in Albany, this is it. The legislature does this remapping every 10 years, and last year legislators basically mapped themselves back into office. To assure that it does not happen again, Governor George Pataki and the legislature should have the courage to act now, when the next changes are still a very distant 10 years away. They should create a nonpartisan redistricting commission with civil service experts doing the detailed work. The legislature should vote the final plan up or down, no amendments, no funny business. New York State runs a $90 billion business that's as hard to follow as the accounting dodges in the corporate world. Money hides in pockets, flows in mysterious ways, and makes it impossible for anyone other than a few savvy experts to know what is going on. The state needs an independent budget office, much like Congress's, to set revenue and to demand that New York's books are understandable. Right now, lobbyists do not have to report what they spend trying to influence state officials. New Yorkers deserve to know what companies are doing to win the favor of the people who issue contracts. The legislature has no excuse not to remedy this one swiftly, since the state's lobbying commission has been pushing for this change for the last 6 years. Attorney General Eliot Spitzer's next stop after Wall Street should be the halls of his own state capital. Mr. Spitzer bemoans the uncontrolled way in which New York politicians raise money for election campaigns and the resulting cave-ins to donors on issues like smoking, gambling, car rentals, and more. He should be brave enough to embarrass his colleagues the way he has embarrassed the stock market's worst operators. But the Attorney General can't fix the law. Only Governor Pataki and the legislature can do that. Mr. Pataki, Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver, and Joseph Bruno, the Senate leader, have separate reform bills, knowing that 3 separate bills in Albany means no bill at all. In Congress, such differences can be hammered out in a conference committee. Albany's leaders need to appoint a committee for this critical issue and let conferees actually do the real work of drafting a compromise. Redistricting aside, there are other ways to bring life to the legislature. Senators are still talking about a startling event last month when Mr. Bruno allowed a bill for gay rights to go to the floor even though nobody was sure it would pass. With an uncertain outcome, the debate suddenly mattered and a few orators actually rose to the occasion. In Albany, this was greeted as the legislative version of Halley's Comet. Mr. Bruno and Mr. Silva have absolute control over which bills go to a vote and which to the shredder. Important bills are rushed through in a single day and voted on by compliant lawmakers who have never even read them. The legislature needs to find a workable system, like the motion to discharge in Congress, that allows a popular bill to come to the floor when enough legislators want it. It should give the committees real responsibility and the power to actually write legislation. And it should junk its system of proxy voting. Legislators can report to duty in the morning and wander off while the record shows that they have voted all day. If legislators pretend to work, the taxpayers should pretend to send them paychecks. To succeed in Albany, a politician must please the leadership, not the voters. As a result, New York is shortchanged in every session. Mr. Bruno and Mr. Silva give out coveted leadership stipends to the most obedient. The system encourages legislators to fixate on the stipends and the small grants leaders also dole out for projects in the districts of their most loyal servants. Voters need to recognize that they may be trading their right to independent representation for a new highway overpass. Improving New York's legislature should not be difficult given where things are now. One of the keys is keeping a close eye on what happens in Albany. We need to convince lawmakers that being 3 hours away from the state's media hub does not give them protective cover.